Hey, welcome back to the Vikings Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hoikkala, and just want to welcome you tonight. Thank you for joining us. I do have a great guest with me tonight. I do want to introduce him real quick. It's Kyle Joudry. And if you haven't already followed Kyle on social media, he's an editor for PurplePTSD.com and then also Vikings Territory, our sister website. You can go ahead and follow him on X at Vikings Gazette. And I'd like to welcome to the stage, without no further ado, Kyle Joudry. Kyle, how are we doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
So we talked about this just right before I brought you on, Kyle, and you're going to talk a little bit about it. But we just saw some news that came in that you let me know that Rondale Moore, we have some news that came up on him, and I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that Rondale Moore has passed away. The news emerged just a few minutes ago. And so, Steve was kind enough to invite me onto his podcast to talk, draft and free agency and so on. And we will get there. And all that has its place, of course. But it didn't feel right to get to that before acknowledging that a 25-year-old has lost his life. And obviously that's just far more important than anything else we'll go on to discuss here. So we send along our condolences. I speak on behalf of the websites, PurplePTSD and Vikings Territory. Speak on behalf of the websites, Steve and I as well. We send along our deep condolences. We're very sorry to hear this news and very sorry for the players, for the organization, for Rondale Moore's friends and family. It's just terribly sad news. And so wanted to acknowledge that before getting going.
And yes, so with Rondale Moore's passing, unfortunately, we there's going to be more details that come out on it, and just this is what we've seen so far on it, and obviously this is tragic. So prayers to Rondale Moore's family, friends, obviously teammates with not only the Vikings but his last former team. I'm sure the Cardinals that played with him. They're going through some tough times right now too. So prayers to all those individuals that right now are, I'm sure mourning right now the loss of a dear friend and family member. All right. So as we get more into the Vikings Playbook podcast, we do have a good show for you tonight. And I want to make sure that we also cover our basis with PurplePTSD. So I talked about Kyle being a senior editor that I work with, and I write over there as well for PurplePTSD. So make sure, if you're not already, go ahead and check out our website, PurplePTSD.com. Check out all the other articles, not only from myself, but of course our other writers like Kyle and many others. So Vikings News Daily over at PurplePTSD.com, and of course Vikings Territory also. Now, with today's show, we have some different topics that we're going to cover with Kyle and try to get his input on it. As always, your Sunday starts here with Vikings Playbook. We try to get different guests to come on the show. That way we're giving you kind of a different flavor every week. Before we jump into this, Kyle, I did have something not so exciting and something very exciting to talk about this week. So I kind of had two different gifts that I ended up receiving this week. And one of them I enjoyed, and one of them I did, I think maybe something to aspire to. So the first one that I got was not something that I necessarily enjoyed, but I had a friend, Lucia, that I am working with this week that is a Seattle Seahawks fan.
Okay.
She was kind or not so kind enough as to bring me back a souvenir.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is what one of those Super Bowl championship hats looks like. So something for us Vikings fans to aspire to. So hopefully one day before we die, we can see what one of those looks like. Now, the other thing that I had that was really exciting this week, Kyle, and I know that I shared this with you as well, is I got to do an interview this week, and that was with no other than Vikings legend Chuck Foreman. So with Chuck, he was kind enough not only to do an interview with me, he also called my dad. He called my dad. My dad's his number one fan. He's his favorite player of all time. And so SKOL Marketing Studios was kind enough to let me use all of their equipment to go ahead and do the interview in their studio, and also got signed football from Chuck. And he also was kind enough as well to also give me this personalized portrait as well. So that was really cool.
Okay.
But a very intriguing interview, in depth on Chuck Foreman, not only on his career as a Viking, but we actually delved down a little bit deeper as far as how Chuck Foreman actually came to be the spin doctor. So we go a little bit more in depth. That episode will air next Saturday at 9 p.m. CST. So make sure that you're tuning in. If you're not already following us, again, we're Vikings Playbook on X, Vikes Playbook on YouTube. And then also you can check us out if you're not already seeing it on PurplePTSD.com. We end up loading those episodes on there later as well. So, and then follow us at our other social media, Facebook, Instagram, and of course also TikTok. And let's jump into our first topic that we have for today. And that first one is going to be who's left on our receiving core in 26. So, of course, we're going to have Justin Jefferson, but we kind of have a little bit of a mystery in Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, and then, of course, Ty Felton. And what I'm talking about with there is, Addison, he's coming up to where we have to make a decision on whether or not we want to have his 5th year extended for his 5th year on his rookie contract. But there's a piece of that where is Jordan Addison willing to take that 5th year, or does he want a new contract? A lot of receivers in his position are usually getting new contracts. And with a down year, it's, stat wise with JJ McCarthy as quarterback and some of the inconsistencies we had there with injuries and Max Brosmer coming in. Carson Wentz was in there for a period of time. Plus he had a few games where he didn't start to begin the year. But is he looking for a new contract to where we've seen, where he could demand, some of the numbers that we're seeing around that 30 million number? I think that might be a little bit high for the stat year he had. And then we also have Jalen Naylor, that he's going to be a free agent. Do we re-sign Jalen Naylor? And is whether one of them leaves, is Ty Felton really ready to step up into that wide receiver 3 position? What are some of your thoughts with that, Kyle?
Yeah, as it relates to receivers, I generally don't worry about the Vikings too much, just insofar as they seem to do pretty all right with homegrown talent. I mean, you're basically, the 4 you mentioned are all drafted and developed in-house. And I recognize that there's quite a difference between Ty Felton and Justin Jefferson. And so that's, an obvious caveat. And yet, so you begin with Jefferson, who's, if he's not the best, he's there. You can't have the conversation about the best without him being the best, at least considered as the best. I do think they keep Addison, though I would think they want to bide their time. And so, handing over right now, Addison's leverage is probably never going to be lower, right? Given there's been a few off-field things, there's been a suspension, injury a year ago. He's never cleared 1,000 yards. He isn't the largest guy in the world. Like, he isn't Mike Evans. He isn't, Megatron. He is an excellent, excellent player. Kevin O'Connell really likes him. Kevin O'Connell, if you remember, I'm trying to remember back now to the draft video on the phone and saying, I told you we were going to go get you, right? And so there's a real sense, I think, that O'Connell does like Addison. And I think Jefferson likes Addison. I think Addison likes him. And so I actually wouldn't be surprised one way or the other whether they decline or pick up his option, his 5th year option, because you kind of know you have the tag in your back pocket. And so if he comes back in his 4th year, goes nuclear, which I think probably as the WR2 probably means 12, 13, maybe 14 if everything goes perfectly for him and everything goes perfectly at quarterback as well. I think Naylor's probably gone. He sounded like a little bit like, he was open to leaving at least, or maybe this is just personality. Maybe he's a little more reserved and not super chatty, but he didn't sound to me, listening to his end of season press conference, it didn't sound to me to have too much enthusiasm about coming back. And so all that to say, Jefferson, who's already very well paid, and obviously he's elite. Addison, who leaves some questions as relates to suspension, off field. He's never cleared 1,000 yards. And yet he's really good at scoring touchdowns. He's really good at shaking loose. He can win down the field. He's an excellent player on the field. And then with Felton, I'm really actually not that concerned about it. He's really long. He's really fast. He's an absolute monster at gunner, which I recognize, again, is a different skill set. And yet there is overlap in at least some degrees. And then, too, KJ Osborne, he had the epitome of a bad rookie season. And KJ Osborne ended up being a fine WR3 for a few years. Likewise, Naylor did not have a great rookie season, nor did he have a great sophomore season. And he ended up being a fine WR3. So it just, as it relates to developing receivers, I really do defer to the Vikings. I think they have a pretty strong track record in this regard. So I would anticipate, my guess would be Jefferson and Addison, and then Felton, alongside some competition.
Here's just a quick snapshot of the seasons that both Jordan Addison and Jalen Naylor had. Some of the free agent spot track estimates are, talking about maybe a $12 million cap number, maybe a $12 million for 3 years type thing for Jalen Naylor. But maybe there's some other free agent targets that are out there. I know Brev has talked about Tutu Atwell possibly being one of those targets. But there might be a cheaper free agent option that we may choose to bring in. Maybe we go into the draft. There's some names in there too, with Brazel from Tennessee, Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. Those could be options inside the draft that we end up bringing in as well to kind of bolster some of those receiving core options at a cheaper price than what a $12 million 3-year contract would be for Jalen Naylor. And again, you have to ask yourself, what are we doing with Jordan Addison? Because if you do pay Jalen Naylor, especially like a $12 million number, are we paying him, to be a wide receiver 3? Or would we now be paying him because we think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 in the future? So definitely something to consider. And as far as Ty Felton, we did draft him, to be an eventual for where we drafted him. We drafted him to where we expect him to actually get some snaps. So Ty Felton, I think, at least deserves to see a lot more snaps and show that he can be the guy before you decide to maybe pay big money to continue to keep Jalen Naylor. If you're not going to keep Addison, then yeah, absolutely, I'd like to see Naylor stay. But if we're going to continue with Addison, keep him longer, or maybe he ends up being trade bait later on, you kind of have to make the decision with Jalen Naylor of, is he going to be the eventual number 2, and can he be a number 2? Or is he nothing more than just a wide receiver 3 on this team, at least? So that is, one of those questions that we're going to have to continue to ask ourselves. Now, those of you that are watching or tuning in, if you have any questions for myself or Kyle, make sure that you send them in X or YouTube, and we'll go ahead and we'll try to answer them best we can. So thank you so much for joining. For those of you that are on, we are having some issues with streaming on X right now for some reason. So I apologize for those of you that typically like to watch on X. So we're working to try to resolve that best that we can. But that will be one of the topics or the questions that will have to be answered this offseason by the Vikings, is what we do at receiver. Now, moving on to the offseason free agent targets. You wrote an article recently on free agent targets that you are interested in. So I went and pulled some of those snapshots, I guess, from your article. and just want to talk about some of the free agents that you thought could be options for the Minnesota Vikings here coming up, and maybe why. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And if you haven't already and you want to read more about that article, go ahead and check it out on PurplePTSD.com and check out Kyle's article on 3 bargain NFL agents who fill needs for the Minnesota Vikings. So go ahead and check that out. All right, let's go ahead and bring up that first one that you had. And the first target, I believe, that you had was no other than a Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, wide receiver. And why did you think that he would be a good wide receiver? Well, obviously, we just talked about wide receivers. So if one of those is going away, you think he could fit one of those positions?
Yeah, I mean, to my eye, he's similar to Trent Sherfield, if you can remember him from a year ago, in that he's got really good size. When he played against the Vikings in 24, he actually scorched them for a 98-yard touchdown. So he's 6'2", he's 211, he's 28. He can play a bit of specials. He's going to really, really help. I mean, this past season was very modest in Miami, but I think everything was modest in Miami on that football team. So the stats were not good. He's coming off a poor season, but the year prior in 2024, really explosive touchdowns, converting first downs, and potentially offering you some of that Trent Sherfield magic. And so as it relates to like a WR3, WR4, $1.5 million, $2 million, $2.5 million, could be a fine player. And I think in a lot of ways, offensively, like you talk to Kevin O'Connell, and he would tell you that, and I think Brian Flores too, from his perspective, from a DC's perspective, when you're going against an offense and you know that they can touch every blade of grass, right? Like they can complete a pass 40 yards down the field, 50 yards down the field, and so on. Like they can stretch you vertically, right? And so that does something to a defense, that does something to a free safety. It does something to the play call. It doesn't mean that's everything. It just means that it is a piece of the puzzle, right? And so having somebody who can stretch the field, convert first downs, score touchdowns, offer good size for cheap could be precisely what they need.
And he played for Tennessee this last year, and with, I think he played for the Miami Dolphins here this last year. Right. Actually, the previous year he played for the Tennessee Titans. So it doesn't look like this year in 2025 he didn't get a whole lot of play this year during the regular season usage. He only had 11 reception off 20 targets and 89 yards with 0 touchdowns. But I know that he was very active and used, pretty often with the Tennessee Titans the previous year in 2024. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to your next free agent target that you had. And we're stealing from the border. So Quay Walker at linebacker. Yeah. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen with Eric Wilson. We don't know where we're going to be at depth-wise at linebacker. So why is Quay Walker one of those targets that you think could be a good one for us in the Vikings?
It's really long. He's 6'4". So he kind of, I think Eric Hendricks recently was just phenomenal, but he's shorter. Quay Walker's build will be a little more reminiscent of Anthony Barr versus Eric Hendricks, if you can kind of think of the different body types. I'm not entirely convinced as it relates to Walker that he will be super cheap, in the same way that other American players will be super cheap. But the sense you get is that he didn't kind of fully live up to expectations of being a first-round pick with the Packers. But he's got great size. He's 25, can blitz a little bit. And so I do wonder if a team like the Vikings that in recent seasons has really enjoyed giving players a second chance, if they've come in as high-round picks, lots of talent, lots of ability, come on over and give the Vikings a try, right? And so Cashman's older. Ivan Pace Jr., I think, in the end is going to be traded away. He's an RFA. Eric Wilson, I'm not entirely sure if they'll be able to afford him, or frankly, if they'll want to afford him, because it's just going to be, he deserves to get paid. Like, he's coming off an excellent season. He does. Absolutely. He deserves to get paid. So I'll be curious to see. They do need to get younger at linebacker. It's a really, really thin position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Ivan Pace, he pretty much got demoted this year when Eric Wilson came in and really just took his job after, I think, many of us thought he had a decent season last year. And then coming into this year, Eric Wilson really just kind of opened eyes as Ivan Pace really just wasn't getting the job done this year. So Eric Wilson definitely opened some eyes, and he used to be on this team at one point before, and he was also a former Packer too. But we end up with Eric Wilson having a phenomenal season, and now we're going to be most likely in a bidding war if we want to keep him on this team. Moving on to number 3, and we know that is a depth issue in us for us in the secondary this year. But taking a look at your number 3 target, Greg Newsome the second at corner, and he ended up finishing up the year and getting traded to Jacksonville. But very good corner. He was a good corner when he was with the Browns. And I think he did a really good job this year as well with the Jaguars. So had a successful year and has been good in recent years. So Greg Newsome, what do you want to tell us about him as a target?
Yeah, just kind of a pretty good build. Like, he's not Xavier Rhodes size, but he's 6 foot, 6'1", 190, 200 kind of thing. A little bit of versatility outside, inside, which of course is kind of key for Flores. 25, former first-round pick. That Cleveland connection, obviously, prior to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah being fired, it would have made a little more sense, just insofar as Cleveland sunk a first into Newsome back in 2021, and at that point, Adofo-Mensah was still in the front office for Cleveland, and so there was kind of some connections there previous where people were kind of connecting the purple dots that don't exist now after the way things have gone at GM. Nevertheless, young, size, versatility, and last year with Okudah, that was the kind of gamble, was a former high pick with good size, and they really do seem to want somebody with a bit of sturdiness for that CB3 job, right? And can you go toe-to-toe with Mike Evans, right? With Drake London, with Christian Watson, with the bully receivers in the NFC and in the NFL more broadly, and having a boundary corner who can do that, I think is going to be appealing. And so somebody with some size, even though I do think that Fabian Moreau is actually, pretty all right depth corner.
Yeah, he did well this season.
I
thought that Fabian Moreau had a decent season for the Vikings, for sure.
Completely agree. I mean, he's older, and so you got to factor that into the mix as well. He'd be a fine CB4 or CB5. I do think they look for size and maybe then, dip into the draft, right, and try to develop a young fella.
Now, PFF recently had said that a good fit for us would also be Mike Hilton. He's 31. He came off of a season where he ended up going to the Colts for a brief moment. But, I mean, he went for a 1-year deal. It was cheaper. And then they tried to say that he would command, somewhere around that $13 million mark. I think that's really high for an individual at his age. And he was just coming off of a deal where I think it was closer to around a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Colts. So I don't know if I agree with that number that Spot Track is, giving us. But, if it's, a gamble at maybe another 1-year contract for a Mike Hilton at age 31, could that be another free agent option for us?
Yeah, I mean, he's a slot guy, right? And reasonably aggressive if memory serves. So, yeah, a slot guy, aggressive 1-year deal. I think the only factor that the Vikings won't love is the age, but you mitigate risk by doing a short contract, right? And it's one of those ones where the Vikings feel a little pulled apart right now insofar as they get that young QB timeline and the kind of veteran roster. And so, but they do want to win right now. And people can disagree whether or not they will, but they do want to win, and they're going to try to win. And so with that being the case, they will, bring in some veteran talent, obviously. But I think they'd prefer to get younger if possible.
Do we see a world where Jeff Okudah is somehow in training camp with the Vikings come next year?
I'd be very surprised. And I have no ill will towards him as a person. I wish him nothing but the best. I would be very surprised.
So we had that injury, came in. I don't really think we saw anything, eye-popping great, from him early in the season when he was on the field. So we definitely have questions there. I think Dwight McGlothern, we saw, he kind of got demoted by, Fabian Moreau maybe getting more of those snaps as well too. Who knows? Maybe Zamiah Vaughn takes another step forward too, and we see him, come into the picture a little bit as maybe a CB4 coming into this year if Fabian Moreau continues, or we bring in someone else. So that could be something that we could see as well. All right, so those were some of the free agents that we saw. Yep, and Caleb Stearns, I see your comment, and we did mention that at the beginning of the show. Terrible news. Horribly sad that happened, like you said, and we wish the best to his family and friends during this tough time, for sure. All right, so next topic that we have to cover, go ahead and switch over to that, is we have a game for you to play. So
yeah, sure.
It's a mystery quarterback game, basically. We just had Dustin Baker over at Vikings territory, got a bunch of our who we think is going to be quarterback 1, quarterback 2, and quarterback 3 to start the year. Not necessarily who we want, but he asked that earlier, and now this is who we think as of now. There's a lot of things that can happen in free agency, the draft, still to come. So, it's still a big question mark. But what I'm asking you is, based on some of those responses that we saw in that article that Dustin put out that we had from our writers, maybe grade the QB 1, 2, and 3, and let's see, whether it's A, B, B plus, C minus, as far as what you would like to see out of some of these options. So let me go ahead and pull up these different options for you here. And again, just what you think you would want to see. All right. Sorry, the first one I got for you here. Let me pull it up.
I will say, in terms of what I want, I honestly don't care what the Vikings decide. It's kind of their choice. If I had a want, I would say JJ McCarthy starting, just because he's been through a lot, and so it's nice to see someone overcome adversity. So I'll say that as my little kind of personal plug. It'd be nice to see the kid do okay, because I know he's been through a lot. This one here, it's all about cost.
Sure.
If they got to trade a draft pick and then snag Murray, then on that contract, I don't think it's a great fit for the Vikings. Murray is he's small, he's shotgun, and it's not that McCarthy's the hugest guy in the world. Not that they don't operate a shotgun, they do. To me, this is, if it costs a draft pick and they take on that contract, this is like a C plus. But it'd be super fun and super exciting just from an entertainment perspective, because then they could actually complete passes and target down the field and so on. But I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think like you said, it'd be a fun watch. As far as fit in the offense, it's probably not the greatest fit in the offense, but he can get outside in the pocket. He allows wide receivers to have secondary routes, and it does potentially open up some big plays. I don't know, but I think that it becomes more attractive if we're not trading and he's cut by the Cardinals. I'm probably more interested if 100%. That's the case.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And what grade again did you give this one? A C plus?
If you're trading a pick and taking on the contract, it's a C plus. If you're not trading a pick and you're just signing him for cheap because Arizona is already paying him, that's like an A minus.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's say it's Kirk Cousins, QB2 JJ McCarthy, and QB3. Let's just say we draft a rookie.
D.
So we're retooling as a just in case.
No, thank you.
And bringing in Kirk. And let's just say Kirk is, does your grade change if it's a 1 year versus a 2 year?
Yeah, it just, been here before.
Or are we still sitting at it?
Yeah, this is a D. If you're bringing in Cousins, like I anyhow, it kind of is what it is. He's a decent enough dude. I respect him. Don't think he's a bad guy at all. I think he's an okay guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think he's, a reasonably competent quarterback as well. But no, this is a D. Don't do this. Don't do this. Oh my
All right,
gosh.
option 3.
Freak, man.
It was talked about. Yeah, you're seeing it again, right? If it's Aaron Rodgers,
oh dear,
JJ McCarthy, and then again, somehow, if it somehow happens and Max Brosmer is still around as your QB3.
Yeah, I hate it. F. Don't do it. Please no. Give me trade your pick for Kyler Murray. I got to listen. This is my job. I do this. Like, this is how I pay my mortgage and feed my kids. I listen to the press conferences and stuff. No. I don't want to listen to Aaron Rodgers talk for a full year. No, thank you. No, this is terrible. He's 42.
I'm with you.
Yeah, move on.
1,000,000%. I'm with you here.
Yep.
All right. So option number 4,
Love
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Geno Smith.
Yeah.
And maybe even Anthony Richardson coming in.
I love that idea. Okay. So in hockey, so I'm a hockey fan. That would be kind of the sport I enjoy the most. There are some teams that say you should always, doesn't matter how deep and how good you are a goalie, you should always have like a robust supply of goalies in the pipeline because it's such a unique position, right? And it's so important. If you don't have it, you have nothing. It's like pitching in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So my point being that QB3 Anthony Richardson, develop, away from the spotlight, develop your game. You're crazy talented. Love that. Meanwhile, JJ McCarthy as the 1, I'm cheering for him as a person. I'd like to see him do well. Meanwhile, Geno Smith, he has been through a lot, similar to Sam Darnold, good size, veteran. He'd be a great backup. I think that's your best one by a mile. That's an A.
Now, does it change for you at all if we have to trade for Geno? Or if
I don't think there's any world where they trade for Geno Smith. So yeah, it would change for sure. Yeah, but I don't think they're taking on that contract.
Yeah, I would agree with you there as well. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And for this one, and I have to claim this a little bit because this is going to be one of the things that I was looking at and did not add. Hold on 1 second. Let me add this one in. There are too many files open here at one time. Okay, so JJ McCarthy, a Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup, and then QB3, and maybe a Zach Wilson or a draft rookie quarterback.
B-
now,
yeah.
So a Jimmy Garoppolo, we run a similar type offense as he ran in San Francisco, and at least when he ran that type of system, he was successful. He's not looking to be a starter, could be a mentor for JJ McCarthy, and he doesn't cost us a pick. He's not tied to any contract. Zach Wilson would potentially give you an opportunity. I would say a similar opportunity, maybe even a little bit better upside than a mid-late round quarterback draft that we'd be looking at. So some of those draft rookie quarterbacks that you're looking at mid-late round could be like a Drew Aller, could be a Carson Beck type individual if you're looking to draft in those mid-later rounds. Cade Klubnik's around there too. Not saying I love or hate any of those. I'm just saying some of the names that are around there. Some people are throwing around Cole Payton as an option out there too, and there's rumors whether he could be a little bit higher or lower in that draft order as well too. But so this is just another option that's out there if you're looking for a quarterback late in the rounds. So, all right, I got another one for you to take a gander at and kind of grade. And that one is, I just had it up there. There it is. Mac Jones, JJ McCarthy, and we draft a rookie. So that means we would be trading for Mac Jones.
Yeah, and I think so. Everyone's talked about Kyle Shanahan and what's his face there, John Lynch, talking about how they don't want to trade him, and those words are basically meaningless. All that means is you're not getting him for cheap. Is all that means. It doesn't mean they won't trade him. So I take those words as basically meaning nothing apart from, don't offer me a seventh kind of thing. So I think this would be fine in terms of, okay, so here's my point, which is maybe shine through, maybe not. This is like a B or a B plus, depending on how much draft capital gets sent over and whether or not you have to extend Jones on the back end.
Right.
What I think the Vikings really want to do, what I think their goal is to raise both their ceiling and their floor. Because last year their ceiling, like the best quarterback play, was not that great, and the floor was really low because the worst was really, really bad. And so they want to raise both. It's two solutions in the same quarterback room, right? So one player could do that potentially, just provide you a baseline level of competence while being very good. I think this helps in both regards, and so it does accomplish the goal. It would just be cost.
So out of all of these different quarterback options that we gave you, it looks like, not that one. Did I get rid of that one? I think I did already. It was that option with Geno Smith.
And Anthony
seemed
Richardson.
to be and Anthony Richardson seemed to be the one that you liked the best.
And sign Geno Smith. It accomplishes both. It's high upside, and yet you're also stabilizing the floor at the same time, and you're not giving up on JJ McCarthy. Whoever you sign has to be able to occupy a weird little hybrid role where you could be a competent QB1 or be a strong QB2 because McCarthy is one of the competition. And that's why Aaron Rodgers sucks as an option, because he wouldn't be a QB2, right? So because you don't want to totally block McCarthy's ascent, right? Because he is talented and he's still young. And so that I think GM Kyle, thank God I'm not the GM. GM Kyle would do that and sleep easy at night until the game started.
All right, so topic number 4, a mock draft wish list. So this is just a list of the different players that have been mocked so far for the Vikings. And there have been others because there's hundreds of mock drafts out there. But these are some of the names that could be there for the Vikings at 18.
Right.
And who knows? We could draft up. We could trade up. We could trade back. You never know what's going to happen in the draft. But Jeremiah Love could be a possibility. Mansour Delane at cornerback are some of those names that most likely will already be gone by the time that we pick at number 18. Jermon McCoy was somebody that Alec Lewis thought could be a good fit in his mock draft. A lot of people do like the tight end Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Caleb Banks, he's a defensive tackle over Florida who's hanging around in that, but he has maybe some injury concerns. Is he healthy? Avion Terrell at cornerback. Dylan Thieneman has been mocked to us by Daniel Jeremiah. He's a safety out of Oregon. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, he's a safety out of Toledo that we've seen several mocks for the Vikings at 18, but is that too high to pick Warren or Thieneman as a safety at 18? Those are some of the questions, but we have holes at running back. We have holes in the secondary. We have maybe 2 safeties that we have to pick up in this draft. Maybe we have to look at depth at corner. We could look at a tight end depending on what we decide to do with TJ Hawkinson. Do we restructure his contract, or do we try to trade or cut him and collect the dead money on it? So those are some different questions that we have on this team. Ryan Kelly is most likely retiring. So are we looking at trying to roll with a Michael Juergens, a Blake Brandel option at center? Do we need to pick up a center as well early in this draft, or is that more of a later round concern if we think we can roll with a Blake Brandel at center? Out of these options, then those are a lot of questions. What would you like to see the Vikings do as far as maybe not even necessarily a player, but what would you like to see them? Offense, defense? And is there a certain position that kind of jumps out to you that we need to address early in the draft?
Yeah, the honest answer is that I kind of don't care. Apart from, I think over these past 4 years, the Vikings did considerably better when they were patient and allowed the board to fall to them. And you can think of Donovan Jackson, who I think is an excellent guard, and Jordan Addison, who has the capacity to be and has been an excellent receiver, so long as he is on the field and available. So those were, owned picks. There's no shuffling, moving around the board, no trading down, no trading up. And that's not to say that they can't trade up or trade down. Once upon a time, they traded up for some safety out of Notre Dame named Harrison Smith, who some people said was going to be good, and that worked out.
He worked out okay.
Yeah, he worked out okay. So it's not to say that trading up or trading down is inherently bad. I do know they stuck and picked Just Jefferson in their slot. So I would say that at times where I had been critical of Adolfo Mensa is he made easy decisions complicated, right? Like not drafting Kyle Hamilton at 12 and instead dropping to 32. That was an easy decision that was made overly complicated, and the Vikings are still dealing with repercussions. And it's okay. People make mistakes. Like it's fine. But that would be one of my main kind of takeaways. And so sitting at 18, I just could not imagine that Jeremiah Love is there. And so maybe they can trade up to get him. If he starts to kind of slide to the end of, and maybe even like 11, 12, 13, maybe they start working the phones. It's possible. Terrell is kind of the name that I've kind of been intrigued by. His brother plays in the NFL. They would really, really love to get a young corner, like a strong high-end corner who can give you 5, maybe 10 years of excellent play. Like the Vikings would be
at 18.
Say it again. Sorry, you're kind of cutting there a bit.
Oh, yeah. He seems to be a name that seems to be hanging around 18.
Yeah.
In a lot of different mock drafts to where he's at least available in that area. So he absolutely could be a realistic pick at 18.
So my total cop out, my conclusion here, whatever, is just be patient. And at 18, like you don't have to care about positional value in the same way that at number 1 or 2. So if it's a safety, if it's a guard, they're not going to draft a guard, but because they have Jackson and Will Fries. But the point being that just keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it, and just do your best to draft a great player. And if that's Terrell, it happens to be a premium position, a position of need, then all the better for the Vikings.
I think so too, and I totally agree with you. That's all the main topics that we have tonight. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or any last shout out or thoughts that you have?
No, thanks for having me on. The Olympics have been great. That's it.
Definitely want to thank you for joining us tonight, Kyle. And thanks for those of you that were able to jump on, and hopefully more of you guys will be able to see the recorded version of this. I apologize right now. And again, make sure that you're following us if you're not already on X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And then remember to tune in here coming up. Chuck Foreman, that interview that's coming up next Saturday. Vikings legend, the sit-down interview was great, and I hope that you can tune in and at least catch it. If you can't catch it live at 9 next Saturday, just please follow us at Vikings Playbook on YouTube and go ahead and watch that back as well. So that's all we have for tonight. So if you're not already covering or watching all the coverage that we have already for you with PurplePTSD.com, make sure you head over there and check it out for more Vikings news daily. For Vikings Playbook, that is Kyle Joudry, who's joining me tonight, and myself, Steve Hoikkala, your host. Join us every Saturday at 9 p.m. CST for the Vikings Playbook. Your Sunday starts here. Till next time, SKOL Vikings.